Greetings from Bonn, Germany. Here's my audience today. I have three lovely colleagues who've been so kind to take time from their busy schedule to come and listen to me speak. And who you don't see is our camera lady, our lovely camera lady, who's also taken time out of her busy day to come and speak to us. So, as soon as we're ready, we can kick it going. Yeah? So we'll be introducing myself, Matthew Sonnicksen. You all know me, but you don't, so my name is Matthew Sonnicksen. And here's a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today. I want to talk a bit about my personal background, where I'm from, what I'm about, what I'm into. Then we'll move into talking about where I went to college, what I studied there, why I didn't finish, and why I'm going back. We'll talk about my professional experience, and in the end, I'll talk a little bit about public speaking in general, fears and goals for this class. And we'll be talking a bit about the PRPSA and what that is. So, some background info. I was born in Valparaiso, Indiana, which is nowhere near as exotic as it sounds. It's a small town in Indiana. I was born on July 28th, 1978, 13 minutes after my twin brother. I've got an older brother, Justin. I've got a mother and a father, as most people do. My mother grew up working in a county jail, so she had always lovely stories to tell us about working in the jail. And my father was the kind of person who didn't have a fixed job. He did a bit of this and that. And my brothers and I grew up sort of following him to work, so we also got lots of interesting stories seeing what he did. Got a pretty extended family, lots of uncles and aunts spread across the country, Texas, Colorado, California, Washington, but we all try to meet up once a year. My family now. Apropos spread out, I live here now in Bonn, Germany, which is right here. It's quite far away from Valparaiso, where I started. As you see, I'm married, and I have two children. I've got Oscar, who's 4 years old, and I've got Mick, who's 10 weeks old. And we all live here in Bonn with my twin brother and his wife and two kids, and that's sort of how I ended up here. Stuff I like to do. What I love to do most, almost more than anything, is to play music, and I do that in a band, and I do it some at school. I love to read, I love to cook, I love to play analog games like Connect 4 or chess. I love movies and television. But between work, playing in a band, school, and studying, I have very little time for any of those things, but I do them when I can. And move on to what I learned. I went to school at Indiana University in lovely Bloomington, Indiana, as you can see, and I studied, you can kind of gather, I studied comparative religious studies for about 3.5 years, and then I stopped. At the time, I was playing a lot of music in various bands, and one of the bands that I was playing with moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And it seemed like a really attractive offer for me, so I quit school and I went and did that. And that was a good 10 years ago now. Along the way, what I did and what I'm doing, and then of course music is a big factor, so there's a lot of overlapping with this. I've done just about everything you can imagine. I've worked for Xerox, repairing Xerox machines, which I wasn't really trained to do. Shouldn't have been doing, but I did it. I've cleaned houses, I've shoveled chicken excrement, I've worked in all types of restaurants, in kitchens, delivering pizza, any kind of thing you could do to earn money, I've probably done it. Always legal. But two big constants, I would say, through my professional career would be music and education. That's education. And those seem to always be components of whatever it was that I was doing. As a musician, I've been playing professionally since I was a teenager. Luckily then I looked a lot older than I was. Hopefully that's still not the case. So I used to sneak into the various bars and just ask people if I could play with them, and I learned a lot doing that. And then throughout college, I played with anyone who would have me. My favorite styles are R&B, soul, funk, and rock. But I've done anything, anyone who would have me, I would play with them. So from jazz to country to hip-hop, whatever. I'm self-taught, and regardless of that, I've given lessons since I was about 13. Yeah, and I've toured and I've recorded with all types of musicians. And I'm on a couple CDs and some videos, so if you look around, you can find me. Education, I'm going to move a little bit faster because I think I'm taking quite a long time. I substitute taught for years, and for my British colleagues, that means supply teaching. I did a year of special needs, worked as an assistant in pre-kindergarten or kindergarten here. I taught several years of professional English, again, which I really wasn't trained to do, but I did it. And I've been a classroom assistant since 2008 here at IBIS in Bonn, Germany. I'm plowing through this now. Why am I taking this class? Let's get to the important part. The unromantic reason is that it is a requirement from my university. That being said, I've discovered right away that there's going to be a lot of personal and professional advantages to this job because about 7 hours of the day we're doing public speaking in front of people. And while I'm used to getting in front of people, I normally have an instrument in front of me, which is like a big shield, where speaking in front of people is not. And it's a lot in front of children, and children are vicious and cruel and horribly honest, regardless of how sweet they might be. So the more practice, the more better, and the more tips, the more better, I think. Moving on. What is this PRPSA that I talked about earlier? Well, it's the Personal Report of Public Speaking Anxiety. And if it isn't self-explanatory, I'll still explain it. It's a self-assessment test where you're asked a variety of questions about how you feel regarding public speaking. And you add these answers together, and I won't get into all the math because it's a primary school. But anyway, so you add these scores together and subtract various scores, and you come up with a score somewhere between 34 and 170. Now, the lower it is, the less apprehension you have in front of speaking in front of people. The higher it is, the closer you are to literally going to the restroom in your pants. Like the thought of speaking in front of people. And mine was 119. And the average is 114, so I'm slightly above average, but I thought it would be much more than that. So, but I guess I'm not doing so bad. But even though we're not supposed to talk about our fears and apprehension in speeches, according to the books, since it's a topic here, it's okay to do that. Generally, strategies for this course, we've done a lot of reading, and this course gotten a lot of tips so far, and some ones that I think I will definitely incorporate into my practical and philosophical applications is that nervousness is a good thing. I know this from performing live, that if you're not nervous, then you probably don't care enough about what you're doing. So the best thing is to sort of channel that nervousness positively. To get over yourself, to not think about yourself, but rather focus on your audience. That's I found that to be a very salient point. And preparation. Yeah. Why is there a shark there? I know this from teaching professional English. I just started doing it by coincidence, and there were days I really felt like I was eaten alive because I had no idea what I was doing, and I was in front of people who really demanded something for their money, and I really wasn't giving it to them at first. Then after a while, you learn that preparation is the best way to swim with sharks, or have a big enough harpoon. Thanks, and I hope I didn't make too big of an ass of myself.